Hey everyone, I'm doing a video on how to set your rear shock sag on a dirt bike. Today I'll be doing it on my KLX 300, but you can do it on any dirt bike. The same concept applies. I hope this video helps someone out because this can be kind of complicated. So you can do this with a tape measure, a ruler, or anything that measures in millimeters, but I do it the easy way with the digital sag scale from Motul. And it's awesome. It's got this deal so you can actually do this by yourself without a partner. So while you sit on the bike, you can read it up on the handlebars. So, no weight on the rear wheel. And you know, we want this between 35 millimeters in that range for our static sag. And you'll see why later, or I'll explain why later, but the whole main reason we want proper sag on the rear shock is so the bike handles properly. You don't want too much weight on the front end, not enough weight on the front end. You don't want your shock spring to be out of whack or too stiff for you. Then you'll suffer from rebound issues and all sorts of issues. So it's important that we get this right. And if your rear spring is too stiff or too soft for you, then you have to go to the aftermarket and buy a different spring for your weight. It's very important, and it will definitely help you enjoy your riding experience if you do this properly. So, first thing we do is we have a little hole here drilled, so we measure from the same spot every time. If you don't have one of these scales, you don't have to drill a hole and you're using a tape measure, mark with a Sharpie here. So you measure to the same spot every time. And this, you measure down here to the center of your rear axle. Center of axle to the same spot on your rear fender. And here I got as straight as line as possible. You don't want it way out of whack, because then it'll, throw your measurement off. It won't be an accurate measurement. So first thing I'll do is I'll measure my static sag by taking this off of the stand. And that's just the weight of the bike. I won't be on the bike. Okay, I got it off the stand. I'll give the seat a couple pushes just to let it settle in. There, no weight on the bike. We are measuring 36 millimeters. I'm a little soft right there. It's a little bit too much static sag. I might make a tiny adjustment with that. And how you do that, you see those two nuts there? What you'll do is you'll loosen the top one, like this. I have this loose for you already. That's the jam nut for the bottom nut. And then you'll just spin this by hand, this bottom nut, to tighten it. Do not use a screwdriver and a hammer. It will ruin it. And even worse, you could knock this off and you could cross thread it on the shock. Then you'll have to cut this nut off and you'll screw the threads up on your rear shock. It's a bad deal. So just try and do it by hand. If you have to use a punch, use a brass punch and hit it softly. That's how you do that. I won't actually do that in this video. That's just the preload adjustment on your rear shock. Okay, so 36 millimeter static. Now we need to measure the rider sag. So I'll put this back up on the stand and zero it, take it back off the stand, and then sit on this bike with full gear. That's how you would do it in the normal riding position. And you should be between 100 and 110 millimeters. If you are not at 110 or 100 millimeters between those two, adjust your rear shock, and you should still be between 30 and 35 millimeters on your static. If your static is under 30, that means you have tightened your rear shock too much to get into the rider sag, and you don't have the proper static sag now, which means your rear shock is too soft. If you have, say, 40 millimeters of static, a lot of static sag, and you sit on this bike, and then you're in the range of 100 to 110 millimeters of rider sag, that means your rear shock is too stiff. I know it's kind of weird to understand. So I'll set this up on the stand, zero it. Okay, I'm on the bike in a normal riding position. And I am at 104 millimeters. That's good. I can stand to tighten my rear shock a little bit to get it within the 30 to 35 millimeter range. I was at 36. And as you can see, I'm supporting myself with my leg right now, and when I take the weight off, I'm at 104, 105. So normally I would wheel up next to something and just kind of support myself instead of putting my leg here, which actually takes weight off the bike. But as long as you're within that proper range, that means your shock spring is set right, and that is hugely important. Once again, if you're out of range, one or the other, you might want to look into a stiffer or a softer rear shock spring. And it's really that easy. It's a little more complicated when you don't have this digital sag scale. It usually takes a partner to do it. But that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope I helped someone.